you look at the complementary feeding of a baby using a low carbohydrate, high fat diet as you would recommend?
Mm-hmm.
First question in respect of that, will you consider that to be a ketogenic diet?
Absolutely not, no.
What kinds of levels would be acceptable, would you expect babies to rise to?
In terms of blood
kind of diet?
Blood ketones?
When you introduce complementary feeds,
Yes.
which as you indicated are real foods,
Yes.
introducing a baby onto real foods, what kind of ketone levels would you expect in the babies?
There's no research to draw on to inform that, but because it's not even close to being ketogenic, you would have it below 0.5, definitely, yeah.
And in the
0.5 millimoles per litre.
In the therapeutic area, we want to get a patient into ketogenesis to the extent where it becomes therapeutic.
Sure.
What kinds of levels of ketones are we looking at?
So definitely over 1 millimole per litre, but really you want it up by 4 or 5 millimoles per litre for its optimal efficacy for epilepsy.
You comment on vitamin A in your summary at point number 2.2. There's been evidence in this committee that the low carbohydrate diet may lead to micronutrient deficiency. And one of the micronutrients is vitamin A. Can you comment on the likelihood, possibility that the LCHF diet will cause vitamin A deficiency? Or vitamin A toxicity?
Just a couple of points there. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about the LCHF diet is that it's low in nutrients, and any dietitian with any access to a food analysis program needs to just enter a good diet, a well-formulated diet, in there to see that it is nutrient replete. In fact, it provides even better nutrients and more fiber than a well-formulated mainstream low-fat diet. So I think any diet can be done poorly. You can get micronutrient deficiencies however you eat. So it still needs to be, people still need to eat well to make sure that they get their nutrients. But when it comes to LCHF, I think the vitamin A issue is more along the lines of toxicity. There's been some controversy around vitamin A toxicity from eating large amounts of liver. And on the one hand, you can get vitamin A toxicity. It tends to come from synthetic preparations of vitamin A, not from food preparations. And the upper limit for in the RDAs or RDIs for vitamin A are very conservative and are not. They don't draw on good evidence, and there's some discussion and debate around that. I think in the South African population, it's the opposite. We actually have vitamin A deficiency, so toxicity shouldn't even come in that discussion at all. So, and I believe there have been some studies done on liver and vitamin A deficiency, and they've been shown to be improvements. And I see that liver is weaved into the guidelines, so there shouldn't be any worry about toxicity. In terms of micronutrient deficiencies, I think LCHF eating, you would find that there'd be much less risk of micronutrient deficiencies when you compare it to a diet that has infant cereals and carbohydrate-based foods, because evidence shows that can compromise the phytates in those foods, can compromise levels of iron and zinc.
Now, Dr. Zinn, you said that the risk of vitamin A toxicity is actually related to synthetic vitamin A generally.
Yes.
And real foods wouldn't have any synthetic.
No, we're talking about supplements. Yeah.
Now, when we're looking at the issue of vitamin A toxicity, you say at 2.3 in your report. To date, there has only ever been one reported death due to vitamin A toxicity philosophy, in this case 90,000 international synthetic preparation was given daily for 11 days to a month-old, a male infant to a month-old infant weighing 2.25 kilograms. Just look at the issue. I just want you to comment on the issue of 90,000 international units. I understand that this is synthetic, but if in the real meal, in real foods, you have to try and achieve that kind of level of vitamin A, so the equivalent of 90,000 international units, how much of liver would you have to have?
Well, I'm not sure it's totally comparable, the synthetic and the natural preformed vitamin A. Why there is so much controversy is because you don't need an enormous amount of liver to get to that 90,000, but it's about 250, 300 grams of liver. So that's a fair chunk of liver that you'd have to give consistently to potentially see any kind of toxicity. This was also an interesting case because it was fed to a 1-month-old. So we're looking at breastfeeding to 6 months and exclusively, and then introducing complementary foods and a range of foods, and the amount of liver that would be encouraged to be introduced would be obviously small quantities, what the baby and the infant can tolerate.
So in your advice to mothers in respect of complementary feeding, will the advice ever be to give around 200 grams of liver consistently?
No, no. But interestingly, in the guideline, it says give fish, meat, eggs, liver every day, and as much as possible. So
if you realistically, if you were advising a mom to introduce liver as part of a complementary feed, about how many grams would you be looking at?
20 or 30 grams, depending on the weight of the baby and the stage. And also because liver is renowned for not being the sexiest food around, you tend to have to combine it with other things for flavors, like with meat. So you probably will end up getting an even lower amount.
So you'd have to have the liver to eat it.
Yeah.
You, at 2.5 in your report, in your summary, you say a thorough search of the literature reveals that there is no evidence to indicate any level of harm when weaning with foods that align with the LCHF philosophy. Do you want to comment on that?
Yes. I think both this is about weaning, so adults and children. There is just no evidence in the body of studies that I have come across that have indicated any harm. I guess the key is that it's an LCHF whole food philosophy. It's not a ketogenic diet, and I think ketogenic diets at the level required to help with epilepsy is a different story and shouldn't really even enter the conversation, because it's even more extreme than a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 ratio for ketogenic diet. This is actually a 4-to-1 ratio, so it's extreme. But in terms of the LCHF whole food philosophy, no adverse effects.
Now, Dr. Zinn, you comment on cereals as being introduced in a complementary feeding diet. Can you tell me and share something about that? What's your views about that?
Yeah, it seems counterproductive because of the phytates and the influence of phytates with reducing the bioavailability of nutrients such as iron and zinc and B vitamins. So I think the most important thing to consider is that the infant needs to get adequate nutrients. They don't necessarily need to get adequate nutrients from cereal. They need to get adequate micronutrients. And there's a whole host of whole foods that are not cereals or rice crackers or baby rusks or things like that, that provide better quality nutrients that the baby needs. So I'm not, baby cereals, in my opinion, need not be there, and clearly haven't been there for most of our existence on this planet.
Dr. Zinn, what are phytates and what's the effect
So
of phytates?
a phytate is a compound that you find in grains typically, and it's an insoluble complex. And what it does is it binds with the iron and the B vitamins or the zinc, and it causes those nutrients to be excreted from the body. So it really decreases the amount of these nutrients that might sit in your other foods.
Can you tell us, you make a comment page at 3.2 with regard to ketones and the essential nature and the fact that they are essential, an essential fuel. Can you tell Madam Chair about that?
Yeah, I mean, Professor Noakes provided some really important information over the last wee while about the importance of ketones, and you only need to look at the first few days of life, where an infant naturally defaults to a state where they are producing ketones. So in terms of their use and their importance, I don't believe that would have been the case if they were harmful. I think once we move away from the fact that ketones are harmful and actually are important for brain development and for synthesizing cholesterol, we'll realize that while we don't necessarily want to put children on the ketogenic diet to get ketones, but certainly they are important in the early days of life, and they are not harmful at all, to the contrary.